6 riders have 3 races to determine 1 champion this weekend in the Moto3 class. The FIM CV Repsol Junior World Championship comes to a conclusion this weekend in Valencia, with Xavi Artigas and Izan Guevara separated by just 10 points at the top of the standings. We might have had to wait until early July for the season to begin in Estoril, but now we're reaching the crunch time, and it's decision time for the titles. The opening Moto3 race of the weekend is about to get underway at the circuit Ricardo Tormo. The path to stardom has so often gone through CEV Moto3. The list of past champions is a who's who of Grand Prix racing, and this weekend will crown the next. Welcome to Valencia for the final weekend of the 2020 FIM CEV Repsol Junior World Championship. Steve English and Kiko Giles bringing you the action. And Kiko, this is the hallmarks of being a real cracker this weekend.
We have got a huge title fight on our hands here. We have got 6 riders in contention to become champion, 3 of them highly realistic. The other 3 is mathematical, and we have seen this year twists and turns throughout. This was Aragon, and this is the latest twist and turn in the class. Pedro Acosta was taken out early on, and that left Xavier Artigas and Daniel Holgado to do battle at the front. But from row, I think it was 23rd on the grid, it was way back on row 8, it was Izan Guevara who somehow was able to come through. In the next race, there was a twist for Xavi Artigas as he had to take the long lap penalty. It didn't put him off though, he did come back, and Pedro Acosta did battle with Guevara, and again, it was a number 28 from 23rd on the grid who took the honours. Into the 3rd race, there was all kinds of problems for all of the riders. Jose Julian Garcia, though, was right in the mix from the start, but it was the Leopard Racing team of Artigas who led until the line, and then Guevara stamped his authority again.
You can see there, perfect conditions here for the Moto3 class in Valencia. But Kiko, it wasn't absolutely perfect for them in this morning's warm-up as well. We saw plenty of crashes, including for some of our title contenders.
Title contenders on the floor was the warm-up news, really. 2 red flags from that, and even some not title contenders on the deck as well, who was starting well this weekend. Artigas was one of the crashers. He was down at the final corner. We didn't see the incident. We can't tell you exactly what happened. He was up and okay. He will make the start for this. There are a couple of riders who we were sceptical on, but starting 2nd on the grid, Takuma Matsuyama, he crashed having gone top. That was turn 4. So the track this morning not in the ideal operating range for these Moto3 motorcycles. However, with the temperatures coming up, we're well into the 20s now down here in Valencia. Hopefully, we'll get a clean race, Steve.
Yeah, here's our pole sitter, Pedro Acosta. Acosta, of course, is able to win the Red Bull Rookies Cup here in Valencia as well. But let's hear from him after the pole position.
Second pole this year, no? Because in the first qualifying, I don't have the best feeling, no, and I can't do a good lap, no. But this afternoon, I was talking with Jonathan, my telemetric, no, and I think that we do the best plan, no, for this qualifying too, and only I can to say thanks to all the team because he worked too hard this year.
Yeah, Pedro, of course, 2nd in the Red Bull Rookies Cup last year. He can go 1 better next week by winning the Red Bull Rookies Cup. He's still a title contender as well in the Moto3 Junior World Championship, Kiko. He's been able to win a race this year. He's at 5 podiums, but he hasn't really had the answers for the likes of Xavier Artigas over the full course this season.
Exactly, and Acosta, you know, he started so well, Steve. We saw it in Estoril, we saw it at Portimao. But unfortunately, like we've just seen in that VT coming in here, at Aragon he was taken out, and he's just suffered bad luck. But someone who hasn't suffered bad luck until this morning, that is 14th in the championship and effervescent Takuma Matsuyama. As you can see, his form is a little bit all over the place, but he starts from the middle of that front row. Yeah,
2 top 10 finishes for the Japanese rider through the course of this season. This is his first ever front row start. He'll turn 16 next week, and he really wants to be able to have a birthday to remember from this. This is Dani Holgado, of course. Last year, he was a very young rider turning up in Valencia. He missed the opening round of the year, but turned up in Valencia for round 2 and was able to immediately be a contender at the front of the field. He's been able able to carry that all the way through this season as well. But for Danny Holgado from the front row of the grid, he's still chasing that first victory of the season.
He is still chasing that first victory of the season, and it was Jerez, the second race at Jerez, the first race of Aragon, where his dip in form, the DNFs, the non-finishes, just cost him a real run at this championship. And this is another one, Jose Julian Garcia. He's still in contention for the title, but it's mathematical, and that's the kind of problem. He's not a million miles away, but he does need a good result. But there's 75 points up for grabs this weekend, Steve, so it's not impossible.
Yeah, really good to see Jose out there as well. He was one of the riders that was involved in a crash this morning as well, so he's going to be a little bit battered and bruised making the start for this race, but at least he's able to get out there. David Salvador as well. This is his second season in the Moto3 class. He's had 4 podiums in the European Talent Cup. He's had a race win in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. He's been a podium man in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. He's definitely got the pace, Kiko.
He has got the pace, but we're not sure on whether or not he'll be able to convert it. But time will tell, Steve.
The top 2 riders in the Junior World Championship will line up from the 3rd row of the grid here in Valencia for this 17-lap race. The pole sitter Pedro Acosta has the chance to win a championship, but he's got a big points deficit to Xavi Artigas, so he needs to take advantage of qualifying at the front of the field. Throughout the course of this race, we're going to be keeping an eye on what Xavi Artigas is able to do from that 3rd row of the grid. He's going to line up down there with the other title contender, Izan Guevara. Guevara, last time around in Aragon, he came from 22nd on the grid to win all 3 races. So for Halloween this year, no doubt, Guevara is dressing up as Superman.
He's dressing up as Superman, and he's looking to scare his other title rivals, that is for sure. It's all about, though, Aragon. We've said already in this broadcast, Steve, it's a totally different track to here. There's a lot more opportunities to slipstream. There's not so many here, if any at all, besides the front straight. So the opportunities, it's going to be difficult. However, we've seen in the other classes, riders can come through from the 2nd, 3rd or 4th, even 5th row of the grid and still be competitive. So this is not done yet. But Pedro Acosta, he's got a big gap to make up, but he's doing it from the right position on the grid. He will start from pole. We've
got 6 riders that are in title contention coming into the final weekend of the season, but really it's all about the 43 of Xavi Artigas and then the 28 of Izan Guevara. They're only separated by 10 points. Everyone else really does need a lot of luck to fall their way to be able to challenge for this championship. The season started in Estoril with Xavi Artigas as the pre-season favourite. He was the rider under pressure. He was the rider that had already had a World Championship podium. He did that here in Valencia last year, and he was the rider with the target on his back. He's been able to back that up all the way through the season, but over the course of the last couple of rounds, it really has been the Izan Guevara show. The last 5 races, he's been first across the line each time, but he's only picked up 4 wins because he was given a penalty in one of those races as well. But Izan Guevara on the 28 machine, keep an eye out for him. He is certainly the form rider in the class.
120 points taken from 125 available. There are not many who have got that kind of form. The weather here in Spain, down here in Valencia, is gorgeous. It's 31 track temperature, 25 air temperature. It's amazing to be down here in the sunshine. We don't normally come down here with the sun beating down the phenomenal Ricardo Tormo Circuit here in Valencia. But we have a race on our hands here. This is the championship standings. Artigas leads Guevara by a slender margin of just 10 points. It's 41 back to Garcia. It's 42 back to Acosta. There's battles all the way down the field.
Yeah, 3 races this weekend in the Moto3 class, so plenty of points on offer. You can see there the riders making sure that they're able to use that long lap penalty. A lot of the time in the Moto3 class in particular, we've seen riders use the siding lap just to get that bit of experience, just in case they are given a penalty during the course of the races. One rider that was given a penalty last time around is this man, the championship leader, Xavi Artigas, on the 43. So he was making sure he was able to quickly use that long lap penalty as well, just to make sure he's up to speed in case he needs it this weekend. Keep an eye on some of the British riders as well. Scott Ogden's qualified inside the top 10 on the number 31 machine. Max Cook has been a regular top 10 runner through the course of this season. He suffered a bad injury at Jerez earlier in the season, but other than that, he really has been able to come on form through the course of this season. But he's going to come from the 6th row of the grid. wide from the front row of the grid, though. This man, Pedro Acosta, trying to start from pole position. He needs to convert it on the 37. He has been a rider that's really built his form all the way through this season. In the Red Bull Rookies Cup, he won the opening 6 races of the year. So Kiko, he knows how to get the job done.
He knows how to get the job done, and he knows he can do it, and that's the big part of this championship. He's got the form, and he can execute what he wants to do as well.
Yeah, pole sitter Pedro Acosta on the 37. Matsuyama on the 32 is a 5-time Asian Talent Cup race winner. Danny Halgado has won races in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. He starts from the front row of the grid. He's the teammate of title contender Izan Guevara. 18-lap race here for the Moto3 class in Valencia. Acosta's on pole position, and the race gets underway. Acosta is able to make a good start, and as are the other front row starters as well. You can see it looks like Fernandez from the second row of the grid with a really good start on the number 25 machine, and he's up into 4th position there. Izan Guevara trying to get down the inside. He's our championship contender. It looks like he's been able to hold on to top 10 spot. That's one of the Australia Galicia bikes. It looks like it could be Rueda that's gone down into turn 2, though. It looks like Danny Halgado on the 96 has been able to move himself up into 2nd spot. It was Rueda that's gone down.
Disaster for Rueda, just going down at the first turn on the first lap. Just not what you need. Pushing his way through there. That's one of the 658 bikes, I think. It's been, oh dear me, we've got drama down here. That's one of the Avintia bikes and another Australia one.
Looks like it's Diego Moreira, and it could well be Vicente Perez that's gone down there as well. So action on the opening couple of corners of this race, and certainly going to be action all the way through. It was Garcia in 4th position there as well. He had a crash during the course of the warm-up, but he's been able to convert that second row start into 4th position in the early goings. Championship leader Javi Ortegas looks like he's up into 7th spot. Further down the order, though, Izan Guevara is down in 11th place. So Guevara lost a couple of spots on the opening couple of corners, maybe got himself boxed in a little bit by some of those other incidents. But certainly for Guevara, he's going to have to try and just come through the field now. Keep an eye out for the number 28 just in the middle of this group as well. He's just behind Scott Ogden as well. Ogden on the 31, able to make a good start from the top 10. He's running up inside the top 10 once again.
He is, and he qualified in the top 10 for the first time this season. So British rider Scott Ogden absolutely on a mission, but at the front at the moment. He needs to do this, and he's got riders packing out places in between. There's lots of riders in this championship fight who are downfield, but Pedro Acosta is not one of them. He leads across the line. Halgado is 2nd. Matsuyama, really good start from him. Held 3rd. He's looking at turn 1 to go 2nd. Can't get it done that time, though. Jose Julian Garcia is in 4th, and clean the top 5 is David Salvador. Ran wide there on the exit of turn 1. Artigas is 6th. We've got riders all over the shop here today. At turn 1, running a little bit wide, but Artigas is 6th. The front 4 got a little bit of a gap, but this is Moto3. We can't read too much into it right now.
Yeah, Javi Ortegas, number 43, is our championship leader. This man, Izan Guevara, is the form man in the championship, having won all 3 races last time out in Aragon. He's on the number 28 machine. He's trying to close down Ortegas, our 2 title leaders. And the number 28 has been able to make some progress now over the course of the opening laps. He had dropped down to 11th or 12th position, but able to pick off Adrian Fernandez there as well on this lap to be able to move himself up inside those top 10 positions. Looks like he's in about 9th position at this stage, but certainly for Guevara, making pretty steady progress, but he knows he needs to make sure he's able to close right onto the back of the 43 of Ortegas, keep the pressure on his championship rival.
He needs to keep the pressure on his rival, but we've seen him do this before, come through the pack. He's not unfamiliar to this kind of situation. However, Pedro Acosta is now starting to break clear of Holgado. There's someone out the seat there, I think back in 4th or 5th, it was Garcia or Salvador. They've both stayed upright either way. But out front, Acosta looking good. The number 37 leads the 96 of Holgado. And Japanese rider Takuma Matsuyama, fantastic performance. We've not seen this from him all year. His best finish to date, I believe, I've got it in my notes, is 9th. He could vastly improve on this, and vastly going through on the 38. The number 43, Artigas, goes up into 5th place ahead of David Salvador. So Artigas, your championship leader by 10 points ahead of Guevara, making a crucial move.
Yeah, you can see there as well, Garcia was a little bit wide through turn 1, so we've seen plenty of riders already exceeding the track limits on the run through turn 1. Very easy for that to happen. You can carry a little bit too much speed, but race direction are being very vigilant on that as well, so certainly something to keep an eye on all the way through. Guevara here on the 28, he's on the Aspar KTM, and just not quite able to close up that gap on the riders in front of him, because Javi Ortegas is making quick progress through this field as well. The gap at the front of the field, it was a quarter of for second between Acosta and Holgado. So it is closing up in that lead group. You can see there Danny Holgado on the 96 right there with the race leader. But all of this group is going to be closed right up because Xavi Artigas is the man on the move. The number 43, really strong here last year in Valencia. He was able to finish on the podium in the Moto3 World Championship, and he was able to finish inside the top 5 in each of the Junior World Championship races last year as well. We came here twice last year, 4 top 5 finishes. This is a track that he goes really well at, and you can see there he's closed right up onto the back of the number 20 of Garcia as well. So Artigas, our championship leader, doing exactly what he has to do at this stage of the race.
He's doing exactly what he needs to do. It's a long race, it's 16 laps. He doesn't need to make any rash moves too soon. He just needs to keep a cool head, get settled down, bring the heat in the tyres back up to some kind of operating norm. We're still early doors here.
Oh, that's David Salvador that's gone down to the last corner, and looks also like we've got another rider down in the background, and it certainly looks like it could have been a pretty nasty high side in the background. Could be Gerard Rieu that's gone down there as well. You can see there for David Salvador, though, he's come down very heavily on his back, and he limps away from that crash. Very easily done on that run in the last corner. That's where we saw one of the crashes in this morning's warm-up as well. Xavi Artigas was involved in that this morning, along with Plonk as well. Looks like red flags are out, so we're going to bring this to a close, and these riders are going to have to get back to pit lane, and then we'll be able to get this race restarted. But certainly that can be a very nasty crash through there. 2 riders down as well, Keegan.
Yeah, I think it was separate incidents. We saw Salvador go first, then Gerard Rieu went down, and a total disaster really for especially Salvador, because he was one of those 6 riders who still had a mathematical chance of the title. That is done, so 6 become 5. Good to see Gerard Rieu is at least moving, and he's getting his senses and gathering his breath. That was a big crash. He must have high-sided on the way into to be like that. The 67 bike there, the AGR Moto3 KTM wheeled away, and we will have a rerun now of this race, but it doesn't really favour anyone. This is still going to be a lengthy kind of restarted race. It's not going to be a short 4 or 5 lap dash that could really suit anyone. It will be quite a few laps, so it doesn't change too much, but Pedro Acosta holds that pole position.
Yeah, you can see David Salvador able to just take a little bit of refuge there. Keep an eye at the back of this. You're going to see the 2 red bikes have a crash. Massive high side there for Salvador.
Goodness.
No wonder he was limping away from that one. And then in the background, Gerard Rieu. You wouldn't be too surprised if Gerard's had a very similar crash as well. But that's similar to what we saw in this morning session as well. It was Gabin Planck that had a massive crash there as well in the morning warm-up. Came down very heavily on his left wrist. But good to see that Gerard is able to walk away. And as we already saw as well, David Salvador was able to walk away. But both of those riders won't be taking the restarted race. But for everyone else now, it is a case of trying to come back to the pits, get yourself collected, get yourself ready to go back out there again in a few minutes' time, whenever we're given a restart time and a restart length for this race as well. Crash in the early stages, a red flag in the early stages of the race generally means that we should have everyone on the same grid positions as original. Usually for these riders, it's then a case of trying to make sure that they're able to assess the damage almost from what happened in the early race as well, because for the likes of Izan Guevara, he has to assess what went wrong because he made a bad start, was coming through the field, but Xavi Artigas was a lot faster than him in the early stages of the race. So for Izan Guevara, he now really needs to be able to take those lessons and see if he can then make a step forward in the restarted race. He is, of course, second in the championship.
He needs to reset. He just needs to calm himself down. We've got 3 races this weekend. You cannot win the title in this race. Even the championship leader, it will go to tomorrow. However, as we've just seen there with David Salvador, you can lose the chance to fight for the title in this first race. And that's something that they've all got to understand. They already do, of course. But Izan Guevara just needs to relax, race it like it's a normal race, not think too much about the title, because whatever happens, he will not be mathematically out of it. But he also needs to make progress, and he can't afford to be riding uptight, riding tense, allowing people to push their way through and ride all over him. He needs to assert some authority out on the circuits and then take it from there. This is Xavier Artigas. He is your championship leader by 10 points. He hasn't won a race since Jerez, so he's not in the best form coming in here. However, he's been consistent. He's finished every race this season in the top 8 positions. All but one of them was in the top 5. So Artigas, he is the favourite, but in recent rounds, as we said at the start, 120 points have been taken from 125 by Guevara. He could really close in here. But it's about relaxing in this race, especially this one. We've got 2 more tomorrow.
Yeah, just getting notification now that the pit lane will open at 1:15, so that's about 4 minutes time, and we will be with an original grid. So because it happened in those first couple of laps, we will end up with Pedro Acosta still on that pole position, and then all of the riders further down the field all in their original spots as well. So for the likes of Xavi Artigas coming from the 3rd row of the grid, Izan Guevara, he gets an opportunity to make amends for his bad start there from 8th on the grid on that opening lap. But certainly for all the other riders, they're going to have to make sure that they're able to avoid any of the pitfalls. And we've already seen crashes at those early corners as well for 2 of the Australia Galicia riders. And it looked like one of the Avintia riders as well. That might well have been Rafael Fusco that went down with, I think it was Diego Moreira at that stage. But certainly for all these riders, Kiko, it is a case now of trying to make sure that you're able to get yourself ready for a shorter race. You can see there
12 laps.
12-lap race for these riders. And that then means that it's going to be even more madcap than a usual Moto3 race.
It's going to be chaos, I think. Let's hope they all keep it clean, though. It was a very messy start across all 3 of them first laps. We saw riders running off ludicrously at turn 1, collisions. We saw crashes, and it's just settle down, run your own race, get your head sorted. And Artigas was a great example of that just then. He was able to relax. He was downfield, didn't get a great start, but he didn't panic, and he just chipped away as the race unfolded. It was only 3 laps he had the chance to do it, but he will get another go at it. Hopefully Pedro Acosta isn't too flummoxed by this. You know, he got a good start. He starts from pole. He has to do it all over again. Luckily, he didn't build up too much of a lead.
Yeah, for Pedro Acosta, of course, he started the season so strong. He was able to battle it out at the front in Estoril. Probably should have won that race in Estoril. Got pipped to the line by just 3,000ths of a second by Xavi Artigas at the season opener. And then in Portimao, he was able to bounce back with a race victory. But 2 costly crashes through the course of this season have ruled him out of a genuine title contention. He still has a chance, but really does need to rely on other results going his way. But he's been so strong in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, taking 6 wins, that he does have that confidence of having raced really well. He's going to be in the World Championship next season, as will Xavi Artigas. And certainly, Kiko, you'd expect to see someone like Izan Guevara get an opportunity, and some of these other riders as well. Last year, 7 or 8 riders stepped up from the Junior World Championship to the Moto3 World Championship.
If you look at the current crop of MotoGP riders, you've got Fabio Quartararo, Joan Mir. They've all come through this Moto3 paddock, and lots of riders, that's just to name a couple of them, lots of riders have. Jorge Martin is going up to MotoGP next year. He's come through here. This is where you learn, and you gain so much valuable experience, not just on track, but off it. You learn about the theories behind things, and it's just a great environment to really cut your teeth, to put a phrase out there. You know, you really need to develop in this class, and if you do it right, like we have seen on so many occasions, and like we're going to see next year with the likes of Artigas going up, there is opportunity to really unlock your future in motorcycle racing. Yeah,
there really is. This is the paddock where so many of the stars really do get their first opportunities. I think when you look down the list of who's come through the championships, it really is a case of who hasn't come through the CEV paddock over the years, and certainly in the MotoGP paddock as it is right now, the likes of Franco Morbidelli came through the Superbike classes, the Superbike paddock and the Stock 600 classes. The likes of Sam Lowes, they came through the Super Sport route as well. But for most of the riders, they really are just the outliers. Those few riders, a handful of riders that didn't come through the CEV classes. You can hear the bike's starting to fire up. The teams are getting ready. The quick restart procedure is in operation. That's the number 92 of Diego Moreira. He was one of the riders that we saw crash on the initial restart. That team's got a minute and 15 seconds to get that bike repaired so that he's able to go out and take his original grid position. That was Rueda's crash down at turn 1 and then down into turn 2. This was where Fusco, you can see there from the Avintia team, and then the number 92 of Diego Moreira came down as well. So the pit lane is now open. All the riders have 60 seconds to get themselves onto the grid for the quick restart. And you can see there the Australia Galicia junior team trying to make sure that they're able to get their work done, but they're going to run out of time very quickly for Diego Moreira's bike. But if they're able to get the bike repaired, he's able to at least start from the pit lane as well. But for everyone else, they're trying to make sure that they can get out for this siding lap. They'll go to the grid. They'll be greeted on the grid by one mechanic for a quick check over, and then we're immediately back into the sighting lap and then the race restart as well, and it'll be a 12-lap race, Kiko, so definitely going to be action-packed.
It is. It's going to be action-packed, and it's kind of one of them races. It's not long enough to play tactics, but it's not short enough to go right at it full gas from the start. So
15 seconds
they've got
left.
that bike out. 15 seconds going down to 10 seconds to go. They have got that bike out. Fair play.
That looks like it was Rueda.
Yeah, that's Rueda. Morera
This
is
is
still
still
in.
Diego in the pit box, and he's not going to get out in time. Pit lane has now just closed, and you can see for Diego, you can hear as well the screams down in that pit box. Oh, it looks like Rueda hasn't quite managed to get there, missing out by only a couple of seconds. So for the Austral Galicia team, that's going to be a big disappointment for them. But at least he's able to start this race from the pit lane, and we'll see what he's able to do. The good thing for him is that obviously we've got 2 races tomorrow as well. But for Xavi Artigas, that we can see there on the number 43 machine, he's going to come from the 3rd row of the grid, 7th on the grid for our championship leader, Kiko. It's the equal worst for him this season, but he did manage to come through to win from 7th in Estoril, the season opener. Exactly.
You know, he's got form for doing things the hard way. We've seen it across all the classes that, you know, if you look at the 2 winners we've had today, David Alonso, yeah, all right, he qualified 3rd in the European Talent Cup. He started 15th after a penalty. He still won. All right, it was on a run to the line. Alessandro Zacconi started 6th. Not so bad, but still was able to take victory. We haven't had a winner from pole position yet. I'm not trying to curse Pedro Acosta here, but it isn't as simple as whoever starts first will finish first. We have got a whole 12 laps, of a whole 48 kilometres of racing to go before we determine even who's going to be featuring possibly in that podium, let alone who will definitely be there.
Yeah, you can see here the quick restart procedure. Acosta moves on to that pole position, immediately met by one of his mechanics, a fist pump, and then they're ready to go. So that bike has been checked over and it's good to go. You can see in pit lane, the Austral Galicia bike still waiting to get away there. That's Matsuyama, the number 32, on the front row. And Kiko, he's been able to be a top 10 runner through the course of this season, 5 times winner in the Asia Talent Cup. That's a very competitive championship over the last few years. He's been able to be a front runner in that. This is as good as we've seen from him, though, in the Junior World Championship.
This is by far his best weekend. Like we've been saying, a best finish of 9th this season on only 2 occasions. Matsuyama has found form here at Valencia at the right time of the year as well. We don't know what he's going to do next year. We presume he'll stay around in CEV, but if he can end this season on the high, he takes all that momentum forward to next year, and expectations will rise, but I think Matsuyama will meet them expectations. He should be able to do a good job. Just quickly, Brit watch here. Scott Ogden starts 10th. It's his best grid position by 2 places, and Max Cook, we've already said, difficult couple of rounds. He's a consistent top 10 runner. He was up to 13th by the time that red flag came out, so expect good things from Max Cook. Both of the Brits will be looking to come through. Temperature's good, weather's good. The same things as always from the first start, so it should be a belter. Just 12 laps, that's the only difference.
We saw Jose Antonio Rieda making his way from pit lane there as well. Of course, he had qualified on the 3rd row of the grid, so that spot will be left open. But Pedro Acosta on pole position from the 32 of Matsuyama, and then Danny Halgado on the number 96 is our other front row starter. The 2nd row of the grid is Jose Julian Garcia. He had a crash during this morning's warm-up, but was looking pretty combative in the initial start before the red flags. David Salvador had been due to line up on the 2nd row of the grid, but obviously he was one of the crashers that brought out the red flag. Adrian Fernandez on the number 25, really becoming more than just the brother of Raul. He's been able to enjoy a pretty good season on that Laglisse Academy Husqvarna. He's on the 2nd row of the grid, and then Xavi Artigas and Izan Guevara will make up the 3rd row of the grid, and then Scott Ogden, he'll be on the 4th row of the grid in 10th position. You can see here as the riders make their way around this Valencia circuit. Once we have a red flag, once we have a shortened race, it really does become a time where brains go out the window, and it is a case of trying to make sure you just constantly hit the front. But really, Kiko, how often do we see brains in a Moto3 race as well? This is always where it's just about trying to make sure that you're able to stay in the group, use the slipstream, and try and attack the riders around you.
I mean, we've seen, if we have another red flag, you know, we've got to think no one wants now to play tactics like we said earlier. Everyone wants to lead. You know, getting to that 2/3 race distance is so vitally important, and to be doing that in the 1st, 2nd or 3rd places, that is something they will all aim for. The front row is taking shape. Acosta is in the foreground. In the mid-ground, it's Matsuyama, and that is the number 96 of Holgado. Will one of them be able to convert that front row starting position?
Yeah, Pedro Acosta, of course, a race winner already this season. Matsuyama with a career best front row start, and then Danny Holgado, a former race winner in the class. That looks like Xavi Artigas has had a problem. The number 43, our championship leader, and looks like he's having to wheel himself off the grid, and our championship leader has now opened the door for all of our other title contenders. And Pedro Acosta on pole position, able to make a decent start off the line, but look at Danny Holgado on the 96 with a really fast start. The 25 of Fernandez from the second row of the grid with a quick start once again further down the field. Izan Guevara on the 28th being able to pick off a couple of places. It looks like he's up into 5th position, but Pedro Acosta able to take that whole shot in the run into turn 1.
Pedro Acosta leads the field down towards turn 2. The red flag is waving, pit lane is closed. Now it goes green, so if Artigas can get that bike started, which he has, he will be able to rejoin, but that is a disaster. His championship lead is only 10 points as it is. He now joins the track. Let's see what's going on in the front. Acosta is leading Holgado. Then it's Matsuyama. The front three, more or less the same.
Yeah, and you can see Fernandez trying to get down the inside there as well. That looks like he's been able to take 4th position from Garcia. Garcia trying to answer back all the way around there. Izan Guevara is second in the championship, only 10 points behind our championship leader, Xavi Artigas. But with Artigas down the order, this really is an opportunity now for Guevara on the 28. We saw plenty of riders running wide there. One of them included Max Cook in the background, but Izan Guevara now, he's the man to keep an eye on. He's in with a chance now of being able to take the championship lead today.
Put the flag out now and he'll be level on points with Artigas, but just behind him, and this is going to be a great lesson for him, Scott Ogden has come up from 10th on the grid. He's 7th. He's got Guevara in his sights. Artigas, there he is on screen, but at the front it is still Acosta and Holgado. But top stuff all round, really. There's no jump starts, so that's something we can work with. We're coming to the end of this first lap. Let's get back to the front and see what's going on.
Yeah, for Xavi Artigas, he's got around about 15 seconds to make up on the riders in front of him at this stage. Pedro Acosta, though, leading the way. You can see a lot of riders leaning on that green paint on the exit, but Acosta once again able to convert pole position into a whole shot and an early lead. He's got about a half second in hand over Danny Holgado, and then the number 32 of Matsuyama is trying to attack on the run into turn 1. Of course, 5 times a winner in the Asia Talent Cup. This is his chance now with the talent team, but you can see once again running wide. Plenty of riders in the background. Looks like Lorenzo Fallon is one of them. It looks like, again, that could be one of the British talent team bikes. Could be Max Cook running wide in the background as well. So plenty of riders that are going to be being kept an eye on by race control. At the front of the field, though, all eyes are going to be on Acosta, Holgado, and now you can see for Matsuyama, he's under attack from Garcia. Garcia, 3rd in the championship. He's got a real opportunity now as well of being able to take in a big points haul on Xavi Artigas. So going into this weekend's races, we thought that it was all going to come down to if Artigas and Izan Guevara can stay mistake-free, it's going to be a championship battle between them. That's not going to be the case anymore, Kiko.
Not at all. And Jose Julian Garcia, the points is 41. Put the flag out now. He is in 4th place. That brings it down to 28. And you know what? 28 points gap between the two, Artigas and Garcia. With 2 races to run tomorrow, Steve, it's getting feisty at the front again. Yeah, 28 is an important number, but it's an important number because it's Izan Guevara's number. Of course, he came from the 8th row of the grid last time in Aragon to be able to win all 3 races. He's had a much easier time this weekend. He's only coming from the 3rd row of the grid, but he's able to make decent progress here in the opening lap and a half. He's up inside those top 6 positions. He's just making sure he's able to constantly put the pressure on the riders around him, and he's just behind Garcia now inside the top 5 as well. So good start to this race for Izan Guevara. Good clean start for all the front runners. We're keeping an eye on what Xavi Artigas is able to do, but in a 12-lap Moto3 race doesn't really stand much chance of being able to finish inside the points. That's why it's so important for his championship rivals, including the likes of Guevara, to be able to make these moves, pick up as many points as possible. Matsuyama running wide once again through turn 1. So certainly in the course of this shorter race, going to be even more important, Kiko, to make sure you stay within the track limits. It is, because, you know, if you keep exceeding, you will be penalised. We saw then with Guevara, he's just gone ahead of Garcia at the first turn. Artigas completely missing the apex there at turn 1. Look at the gap at the top. It would be Guevara now leading the championship. Artigas in 2nd place, 1 point behind. Acosta there in 3rd place. He'd be 18 behind, and Garcia in 4th. All covered by less than 30 points if you put the flag out now, but it doesn't matter because we've got 10 laps to go.
Tell you what, I always love when the championship graphic turns up for a Moto3 race because it changes so much during the course of proceedings. But certainly at the front of the field, Pedro Acosta doing exactly what he has to do. We know he knows how to win races. He won a race in the CEV Moto3 Junior World Championship this year. He's won 6 races in a row in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. He's the championship leader in that series going into the final. We weekend of the year, which is also here in Valencia next week in support of MotoGP. So for Pedro Acosta, he's trying to make sure he's still in a position to be able to do a pretty unique double of winning the Moto3 Junior World Championship and the Red Bull Rookies Cup in the same season. But he knows that he needed a bit of luck on his side coming into this weekend's races. He's had that bit of luck with Yari Montella. Now he really needs to take advantage of it. But Izan Guevara on the 28, he's been able to make nice, steady, stealthy progress all the way through these opening few laps. And he's now up into 4th position, going to attack Matsuyama on the run down in towards turn 1. Maybe not quite close enough to be able to make that move, but there's plenty of overtaking opportunities for him down in towards turn 2, into turn 5. You can see Scott Ogden here on the 31, running inside the top 10, doing a good job in 8th position behind Adrian Fernandez. And Kiko, he's looking like he's had a really good weekend. He's been able to run inside the top 10 quite a lot during practice and qualifying, and looks like his pace is really legit. Yeah, his pace is legit, and you know, you get this opportunity to show that in the race. And you know, with the likes of Artigas we've got on screen now, with the likes of Guevara, yes, Guevara's in the leading group, but he's not quite at the front yet. With them kind of star riders fading, it gives people belief that this is a good opportunity to get a good result. And when you've already gone through the ritual, oh, the 95's down, who that's Rueda that's gone down, the second crash of the day, unfortunately for Jose Antonio Rueda, and that should be the end of things for him now. But hopefully nothing related to what happened in his crash earlier on in the race as well. Just looking outside our commentary box window, I want to be able to keep an eye on what Xavi Artigas is doing. Looks like he's been able to catch up to the pack now. So for Xavi Artigas, he is closing up on them, and certainly in the next couple of laps he looks like he's going to be able to start to make some progress through this field. But so much progress for the championship leader to make that it's going to be a real challenge for him to get anywhere close the points paying positions. But I tell you what, we learned in the past not to rule Xavi Artigas out for anything. Exactly. You got a track limits warning for Jose Julian Garcia and the number 20. That's just flashed up on our timing monitor. So the man in 5th place, there he is. He is being a naughty boy, going over onto that green paint. Look at the battle for 6th here. That is Fernandez. He's being slipstreamed by the 34. That is Super Mario moving himself up as well. And Mario Aggi, of course, a former Asia Talent Cup front runner. That is a crash. That's Spinelli that's gone down. And that looks like it's at the last corner, I think, for Spinelli. We saw again, though, track limits warnings being given to another couple of riders. Lorenzo Filon is one of those riders that's been given it. And also Alejandro Diaz has been given one too. So at the front of the field, it is going to be a case those track limits are going to be absolutely crucial, because we saw Garcia given his penalty and immediately run wide once again as well. So all these riders are going to have to be on their best behaviour through the course of the next 7.5 laps. What's interesting, though, is we're now starting to see the groups start to split apart. The front is now a leading group of 5, and then further down we are starting to see all those groups splinter. This is what happened to Spinelli. Very easy for that to happen on the run down into the last corner, Kiko. Yeah, you're braking at an angle. You've not really got much. You've got a little bit of camber. You've not got a great deal of room to kind of pull it in. He's just trying to be a bit greedy there on the brakes, grabbed the front end, and down he's gone. Yeah, you can see Izan Guevara here on the 28. He's trying to make sure he's able to get that pulled in. He's holding slightly tighter lines than the 32 of Matsuyama. Doesn't need to use as much track. He's got that speed. He wants to make sure he's in a position to try and attack. Going to be really important for him to exit the last corner well, use the slipstream, make the move into turn 1. That's the easiest overtaking opportunity around this lap, Kiko. But there are some other places, but some places as well, where you need a very willing dance partner to make the moves. Exactly. You know, you need to trust who you're passing. Turn 2's not so bad. Turn 4, ooh, we saw some moves earlier in Moto2, the race winning move coming from there. But again, you've got to have a little bit more performance coming into the corner. You've got to be able to pull it down, not lose the front. You've got to have a good bike out. There's other places like that. Turn 6 is possible if you want to lunge. As Garcia goes off the track again, he will get another warning for sure. As Guevara moves into the podium places, he gets ahead of Matsuyama. So Guevara moving through, and it's that incremental progress we spoke about, Steve, all the way through the race. He doesn't do anything outlandish like take 5 riders in one lap, but he chips away, and with 7 laps to go, you wouldn't rule him out of contention just yet. Yeah, Guevara just picking off the riders if and when he can, doing a really good job to be able to move himself up into that 3rd position. Behind them, though, Jose Garcia, we saw him run wide again. don't be surprised if he gets a long lap penalty for exceeding track limits once again. The good news for Garcia, though, is there's a gap of around about 3 seconds back to Super Mario, so he should be able to take the long lap penalty and potentially stay in front of that group as well. But even if he drops into that group, he's got a lot more pace than them as well all the way through this weekend, so you'd expect to see him able to open up a bit of a gap. At the front of the field, though, the gap is starting to open up as well. You can see Pedro Acosta, big moment there for Acosta as well on the 37. A quick look over his shoulder, he sees Danny Holgado's right there with him. Holgado's Aspar teammate also right there as well. Izan Guevara up into 3rd spot, and then we've got the number 32 of Matsuyama, and then Jose Garcia, our track limits warnee, is in 5th position. But right now it's going to be about the Aspar riders.
Holgado can still win this championship. It's important to remember that. But realistically, Izan Guevara, his teammate, has got a bit more of a chance, and if you put the flag out now, he'd be the championship leader. So I wonder if team orders are going to come into this. At this stage with 6 to go, I don't think it's likely. On the last lap, long lap penalty for Garcia. We called it, Steve. He's been doing it too much. Will he do it again this time? Ooh, probably. We couldn't quite see because Matsuyama was in the way, but Garcia will have a long lap penalty. He's in 5th. And we've got other riders. That's Fernandez. Yeah,
running very wide there as well, so don't be surprised if we get another couple of warnings for the exceeding track limits. But certainly a warning sign for Pedro Acosta is that Danny Holgado looks like he's trying to make some moves on the run down in towards turn 4. He's looking very much like a rider that wants to hit the front. He has been able to win races in the Moto3 Junior World Championship in the past. He's been fast in Valencia in the past. A year ago, for the 2nd round of the championship, he made his debut here in Valencia, was immediately fighting it out for race wins, finished on the podium, finished in the top 5 in the other race that weekend as well, made an immediate impact. He switched teams this year. He went to the Aspar team. He was expected to be the title contender for that team. Izan Guevara, stepping up from the European Talent Cup, wasn't expected to really lead that team. He's been able to come through and do a really good job, obviously, all the way through this season. But again, just to show how good of a job Aspar has been able to do, they were able to, of course, wrap up the European Talent Cup once again this season with David Alonso only a couple of hours ago, and now they've got 2 of their riders inside the top 3.
And that is Holgado who's leading. I was just going to say, Holgado and Guevara were in the 39.8s last time round, Acosta in the 40 flats. Now, Holgado is leading. Will Guevara follow suit? We're about to see it's KTM's 1, 2 and 3. The first Honda is Matsuyama in 4th, going for his first podium of his career. Garcia is yet to take his long lap penalty. It's still on our timing monitor. Acosta is going to come through to take the lead. The number 37 slipstreams past, uses the slipstream on that front straight to take the lead into turn 1. Does he pull it down? He runs it a little bit wide but keeps it neat and tidy. Holgado will look to fight back, but it's line astern into turn 2.
Yeah, you get 3 laps to take your long lap penalty. We're also seeing that Alejandro Diaz has been given one too. He's one of the Laglisse riders further down the field. So you get a few laps to take the penalty. Last time around would have been the first time that Garcia would have seen that board to tell him to take a long lap penalty. So we'll keep an eye and see if he does it this time around. But certainly at the front of the field, Pedro Acosta, he's not been given any warnings from race direction at this stage. The only warning he's been given is that the Aspars are coming. So he made sure he was able to hit the front once again whenever the opportunity presented itself in the run into turn 1. But we got a real battle here between these 5 riders. So good to see Matsuyama as well up there as well. This is as good as we've seen him all the way through this season, and showing that what you learn in the Asian Talent Cup you really can bring forward to the Junior World Championship. What's going to be interesting now, Kiko, is will Garcia take that long lap penalty this time around?
We're going to find out now, because Garcia, nope, he looks like he's going to carry on, because that's the long lap corner, so he's still in 5th. He's going to have one more opportunity, I think, to take it. Guevara looks over his shoulder, checks out the opposition, and there's the eyes on the helmet of Matsuyama. I must say, it's actually nice to see that. A Japanese rider running the eyes on the helmet. They brought him over to Europe, and it's a great asset, and it's nice to see it back. Leading at the moment, Acosta. No moves made and for the top 3, but Garcia jams it down the inside of Matsuyama there. So Matsuyama down to 5th, but it doesn't really matter because Garcia, of course, yet to take that long lap penalty, and Matsuyama looks like he's going to grab it back anyway.
Yeah, Matsuyama, he's been fast on the straight all the way through this race. Of course, he's running the Honda. Same for Garcia, the 3 KTMs at the front of the field, though. But certainly for Matsuyama, as you said, yeah, running the moon eye is always good to see that, and good to see the Japanese riders carrying that tradition forward. But at the front of the field, it's the traditional Spaniards in the Moto3 class, and certainly Pedro Acosta doing a good job here to hold off Holgado and also Izan Guevara. But Guevara looks like he's ready to try and get himself close to attack his teammate. This lap's crucial, though, because this is the lap where Jose Garcia has to take his long lap penalty.
He has to, and I mean, he's going to end up out of this battle for the win anyway. But if he doesn't and he stays out, we've seen riders do it before, ignore race direction. I always think back to, I think it was 2015, it was Alex Rins in Moto2. He ignored the recommendation to take the penalty, and he completely carried on. We don't know what exactly will happen with 3 laps to go, but it will be some form of real harsh penalty this time. Let's see if he does it. We're through turn 10. Will he join the track? No. So Garcia, what will come for you?
Garcia is running the risk of having to take long lap penalties in tomorrow's race, potentially from race direction as well. But certainly for Garcia, he's in the middle of a heat of a battle here, and he's only focused on the riders in front of him. But that's a big mistake now from Garcia. We've seen him in World Championship action this season. We know what talent he has, Kiko, but this is him making a big error now by not taking those penalties.
Exactly, and he's not just messing up his championship, potentially. He could impact the rest of it, because the 3 guys in front of him, if he takes one of them out, then we may well have drama here.
He's still being given the board for the long lap penalty as well, so hopefully he takes it this time and it just drops him out of this leading group down into 5th position. But certainly for Garcia, he needs to take the penalty now. Behind them, it's still Super Mario Aji up in 6th position. Aji, the Indonesian, doing a really good job. He's about 6 or 7 seconds back from the top 5 spots. Xavi Ortigas starting to make his progress now through the field, but still a lot of work for him to do as he tries to come through the field. He's got Alejandro Diaz is just behind him. Of course, Diaz we saw take a long lap penalty as well. At the front of the field, though, you can see it is still Acosta from Holgado and Izan Guevara.
We're past 2/3 race distance now, Steve, as well. So if they put the flag out at the minute, it would be a race result, and Acosta would be the race winner. This is the leading group. Acosta leading Holgado, leading Guevara as it stands.
Garcia took a look over his shoulder there on the run into that section. I think he now realizes he has to take that penalty. Let's see if he does run straight through here.
Yep.
He does. So Garcia does take his penalty. He's going to drop down to 5th position. You've got to make sure you stay within those white lines as well. You don't want to exceed your track limits on your long lap penalty as well. You can see there the penalty here in Valencia, not actually that severe. He only drops a couple of seconds, but for Garcia, he's dropped enough down the order where it's going to be very difficult for him to get back into this podium battle. You can see for Matsuyama as well, he's now dropping a little bit further adrift of that as well. So we do have a 3-rider group at the front. They're going to be the 3 riders fighting it out for the podium spots in the final 2 laps of the race. It's still Pedro Acosta on the number 37 leading the way. Danny Holgado on the 96, and then his Aspar teammate Izan Guevara is in 3rd position. All 3 of these riders, Kiko, are still within a chance of the championship, but for Izan Guevara, the form rider in the class, he knows that he's the rider in the box seats right now.
We've got 2 laps left, Steve. All 3 of them are in a realistic chance of the title if they stay like this. 27 long lap penalty. I don't think Diaz has taken it.
That's Diaz once again. So hopefully he got his penalty a lap after Garcia, so maybe he still has his penalty still to take. That's Xavi Ortigas up into 23rd spot. The gap for him to the points, it's around about 10 seconds, so still too much ground to make up for Xavi Ortigas, but at least he's been able to set some decent lap times. Last time around, he was only a couple of tenths of a second slower than the race leaders, and that was making progress through the field. So his pace is good. It's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back tomorrow. But with a lap and a half to go, let's see what happens here at the front of the field. It's still the number 37 of Acosta, the 96 of Holgado, and then the 28 of Izan Guevara. Guevara, of course, winner of 4 of the last 5 races. He's the reigning European Talent Cup champion, or at least he was until that European Talent Cup championship was won just this morning. But certainly for Guevara, he knows how to win championships. He knows how to win races. He wants to make sure in the final lap that he's able to pick off his teammate and also Pedro Acosta.
Exactly, and you know, but this is Valencia. On Moto3, that you do have the opportunity to pass at a couple more places than you do on a bigger bike, but the front straight is the biggest chance, and I don't think Guevara's got close enough here. This is looking more like a battle for 1st and 2nd. As it stands, Holgado is in the draft of Acosta. We're on the last lap now. The 96 pulls out. Will he let the brakes off? He tries, but can't do it. They tip into turn 1 for the final time. We have got 4 kilometres left, Steve.
Yeah, to run down in towards turn 2 is where Holgado's going to be aggressive on the inside, but Acosta's able to defend that position really well. Sweeps across, but now Izan Guevara is right there. We saw moves into turn 4 already through the course of today's action in the different classes, and he's going to try and see, is he close enough? Not quite able to make that move on the run into turn 4. Guevara, the clock is ticking for him, but he is close enough to be in a position to attack. The key overtaking opportunities for the riders are really going to be down in towards the last corner, turn 14, the slow left-hander. It's downhill. You're able to barge down the inside of there and try and force a move. You can also force a move into the next corner as well. After the left-hand kink at the end of this straight, you can try and make a move. Guevara's going to try and get down the inside of Halgado. He's able to make that move. Can he hold his line? He does hold the line. Now the big thing for him is try and make the move into turn 14.
Will he be able to make the move into turn 14? He's definitely close enough as it stands, but we've seen Acosta. He runs a very, very different line through turns 12 and 13. Will he be able to get that gap big enough to keep Guevara out? We may even see Takuma Matsuyama pick up a podium place here, depending on what happens. We're in the final two corners, Steve.
Yeah, and Izan Guevara now coming down through the long left-hander. Is he going to be under attack from Danny Halgado? The leading three positions can all change. It looks like Guevara is going to try and get down the inside. He's going to barge down the inside of Acosta. Acosta's led pretty much all this race, but he's going to be beaten on the run through that last corner. Can he use the slipstream to try and attack back on Izan Guevara? He's not close enough to. Guevara picks up his 5th race victory of the season. And how crucial is that for the Aspar rider? He's now going to be the championship leader heading into the final day of the season. Pedro Acosta ran inside the top two all the way through this race. He comes away with 20 points in second spot. Danny Halgado from the front row of the grid, the Aspar KTM rider, is able to come away with a podium finish. And you can see here our championship leader coming into today's action was Xavi Artigas. He had a problem at the start. He had to come through the field starting from pit lane. He finishes in 22nd spot. He's going to be crestfallen with that, but he's still got a championship to win tomorrow. He's just got ground to make up on Izan Guevara. Guevara is going to hold a 15-point lead heading into the final two races of the year.
That is exciting. We have got a real finale coming up tomorrow for you. But I must say, just looking at the timing monitor, Tachiko Boisery from 22nd on the grid finishes 10th. Now that is a class ride just off the screen. We'll pick up on that later, but a good ride from Boisery. Guevara, the championship leader for the first time this season. So that is a very, very important result for him. What a time to do it. The last race day to come of the season, and this is the last championship still to be decided. The drama today, Steve, you couldn't have scripted it.
Yeah, it really has been an action-packed day across the board here in the CV paddock. Xavi Artigas there, you can see 22nd at the flag. He's got his work cut out for himself. We're just seeing some penalties have been given as well at the end of this race. Lorenzo Fallon's been given a penalty, and then also we have another penalty for Josh Watley, the British rider, and both those riders further down the field. Watley ends up inside the top 20 in that race, but further up the order, we also had a British rider inside the top 15 points paying position. Scott Ogden able to come away with 12th place, having qualified inside the top 10. Decent result for Ogden here on the opening race of the weekend. Let's see if he's able to make us another step forward from tomorrow's action as well. Of course, 2 more races for the CV Moto3 riders, but right now it's all about those riders at the front of the field. Pedro Acosta comes in. He's going to be disappointed with that because he led pretty much all this race and then gets overtaken on the run into that last corner, and it was Izan Guevara that made that move. He came from 3rd position across the line heading into the final lap to get down the inside of his teammate on the run down that back straight into in the final lap to get down the inside of Danny Halgado, and then into the final corner he's able to barge past Pedro Acosta as well. Times it to perfection. Smart riding as usual from Izan Guevara. We've seen it all the way through this season, keeping a real cool head, and considering this rider at the start of the season began the year with, I think it was 19 points from the first 3 races. He's now been able to pick up 5 wins out of the last 6, and the only time he was beaten, he ended up finishing 2nd, having been given a penalty for exceeding the track limits in one race in Jerez. But certainly for Izan Guevara, he has been the absolute standout star of the Moto3 class over the course of the last few rounds, and now he's going to go into the final day of the season as the championship leader and the rider with all that momentum behind him. You can see Danny Halgado down there in Parc Ferme as well. Halgado, of course, came into this race still as a title contender, but he's now been ruled out of title contention, and he's been able to pick up only his 2nd podium in the season. He was able to finish on the rostrum in the opening race of the weekend at Jerez earlier this season, but now his 2nd podium of the year. And certainly for Danny, he would have expected more coming into this season. Last year he was able to win a race, he was able to finish on the podium as a regular, and this year he switched over to the Aspar team, and he's been for the most part of this season, overshadowed by his teammate Izan Guevara, but that's mostly because Guevara has done such a good job all the way through this season. Pedro Acosta in Parc Ferme talking to his team. They're trying to make sure that Pedro knows he did a good job, and really all the way through that race he did a good job. We saw that he was overtaken by Danny Delgado, but he answered back to be able to hit the front. He led into the last corner. Typical last corner move there from Izan Guevara to get down the inside of Pedro Acosta. Certainly something for Acosta to learn from for tomorrow's races, and certainly something for him to learn for next week's races. He's also here in the Red Bull Rookies Cup next season, next week, where he's got the opportunity to wrap up that championship. But certainly for Acosta, he's still got a chance of being able to claim this Moto3 Junior World Championship after what we saw from Xavi Artigas today. But he'll need to win races tomorrow to be able to give himself that real opportunity. Izan Guevara has certainly been able to win races through the course of this year, and what we've been able to see from him really has been a star turn from last year's European Talent Cup champion. That's his 6th win of the campaign. Really has been a very impressive season for him. Sorry, his 5th win of the campaign, his 6th podium as well, but really has been a complete season from him. He's shown a lot of maturity, a lot of experience, a lot of intelligence, and looking forward to hearing from him down in Parc Ferme after that race victory. Down in Parc Ferme, you can see that Guevara is getting ready for his interview, so we're going to get the opportunity to hear from our race winner and our championship leader, Izan Guevara.
Izan Guevara, big celebrations there. You are the new championship leader going into the final day of the season. Tell us about that race.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the race. Good point for the championship. Great battle in the group until the last corner. I would like to thank to my team for supporting me, my parents and my sponsor.
And in Spanish.
Ha sido una carrera, la verdad, que muy rápida. Estoy muy contento porque hemos sacado unos buenos puntos para el campeonato. Y nada, solo tengo palabras de agradecimiento para mi equipo por todo el apoyo que me da día a día, y Nico Terol también. Y también agradecerle a mis padres por todo el trabajo que hacen y a mis sponsors.
Perfect.
Yeah, it really was a perfect race from Izan to be able to take that race victory. He came from the 3rd row of the grid after the initial race was red flagged. See Pedro Acosta from pole position, able to take that whole shot. These were the opening lap crashes. That's Rueda in the background. Down in towards turn 2, we also had one of his Estrella Galicia teammates, Diego Moreira, down. And then further around the lap, we also had another crash on lap 2 that brought out the red flag. Xavi Artigas was able to make pretty steady progress from the 3rd row of the grid before the red flags came out. And this is what brought out the red flags. A big crash for David Salvador, and in the background, Gerard Rieu was also a faller. So the red flags came out, and we had a restarted race, but it wasn't restarted immediately for Xavi Artigas. He had to start from pit lane after a technical issue. On the run down in towards turn 1, we once again saw the whole shot for Pedro Acosta, but further down the field, it was Izan Guevara that was making progress. Guevara from the 3rd row of the grid was able to make a much faster start in the restarted proceedings to be able to move into the top 5 immediately. Xavi Artigas came from pit lane, but wasn't able to get himself back into a points-paying position. So our championship leader coming into today's action now finds himself 2nd in the standings and 15 points behind Izan Guevara as he tried to make his progress all the way through. For Artigas, there's another fight to be had tomorrow, and certainly a championship still to be won for him. But at the front of the field, it was all about who was going to be able to pick up this race victory. Pedro Acosta looked really comfortable all the way through the race. One man that wasn't comfortable, though, was Spinelli. He was down at that last corner. But at the front, it was all about those leading 3 riders at the front of the field. And Izan Guevara on the final lap came from 3rd to take the race victory from Pedro Acosta. action-packed stuff in the Moto3 Junior World Championship as usual. A red flag meant that this was a much shorter race, only 12 laps, but 12 laps of action for Izan Guevara to hit the front. He was able to win this race by less than a tenth of a second from Pedro Acosta, and for Izan Guevara, he only led a couple of hundred metres, but he led the important couple of hundred metres until the checkered flag. Danny Delgado was able to come away with his second podium of the season, and Takuma Matsuyama was able to have his season's best result inside the top 5. Jose Garcia had a long lap penalty, it dropped him to 5th, and then further down the order you could see that Buassery was able to finish inside the top 10. Scott Ogden able to pick up points in 12th position, and Lorenzo Fallon was our last points paying finisher. He was given a penalty after this race as well, a time penalty for exceeding track limits. Further down the order, Josh Potley was another rider given a penalty. He ended up 22nd, just behind Xavi Artigas. Artigas had been our championship leader heading into this race. He's now 15 points adrift, with 50 points up for grabs in tomorrow's Moto3 action, where we'll have a double header on Sunday. So now the rider is getting ready to stand on the podium, and in third position we have Danny Delgado. Really impressive performance by him, constantly put the pressure on Pedro Acosta through the course of this race. But once again, Izan Guevara, Kiko, he was the man that was able to hit the front when it mattered most, kept a cool head all the way through.
Perfectly timed. We almost wrote him off actually on that last lap. We wasn't sure if he was close enough, but he pulled it off. Turn 8, beautiful move into second place, and a lovely move, lovely timed move to take victory at the final corner. And that, I must say, is the mark of a champion in the making. He sports that sturdy lead now going into tomorrow. Will he be able to keep it?
Yeah, for Izan Guevara, he was a double race winner here last year in the European Talent Cup. He's been able to finish on the podium 6 times through the course of this season. That's his 5th race victory. Really has been very impressive from him. From Jerez to Aragon and now to Valencia, he's been able to just get better and better as the season wears on. Last year he won the European Talent Cup. This year he goes into the final day of the Moto3 season as the championship leader, with an opportunity to win the Junior World Championship as well. So for Izan Guevara, plenty to celebrate here after race 1, and plenty to think about with the rest of the action this weekend. Izan Guevara on the top step of the podium, and the latest on a long run of talented riders from Mallorca. And certainly what we've seen from him over the course of the last year means that he'll go into tomorrow's race feeling that he's got a real chance of being the Moto3 Junior World Champion.
He really will, and you know, the confidence is with him now. However, we've not seen how he's going to deal with the pressure when he's leading. He's used to chasing. Now he is the one being chased, and Artigas is behind him. So can Artigas close the gap down? We know Artigas, that result there was only because of a problem on the grid. Will he be able to fight back tomorrow?
Yeah, of course, Xavi Artigas has led the championship from the opening day of the season until now, and heading into the last day of the season, it's going to be Izan Guevara that holds a 15-point lead. Pedro Acosta is 37 points adrift. There's 50 points up for grabs tomorrow, so Jose Julian Garcia is still in contention, but really this is coming down to 2 riders, Guevara versus Artigas, and then the fight for third with Acosta, Garcia, and Danny Delgado still got a chance in that as well. Delgado, of course, podium man in this race, fast all the way through this weekend. He'll start from the front row tomorrow. Further down the order, Max Cook, the leading British rider. Of course, Cook missed a round with injury after having a bad crash during the opening race of the weekend in Jerez. He then had to sit out 2 races, so he's done a good job to still be able to score points, move himself up into 11th in the championship standings through the course of this season. He's really been able to come on strong in his 2nd season in the CEV Moto3 Junior World Championship. 12 months ago, Izan Guevara wrapped up the European Talent Cup. Today, he's the Moto3 Junior World Championship leader for the first time. He's got 2 races tomorrow to try and wrap up that championship, and you wouldn't bet against it.